I would like to welcome the audience to the March 16th, 2021 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Would you all please stand while Coach Williams says the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear God, again, we thank Thee for allowing us another blessed day. We thank You for Your creation, and let the Holy Spirit come into our meeting tonight that we might do that which is pleasing in Thy sight. We pray for those who suffer throughout the land. And we pray for this board. We pray for this staff that has given us an opportunity to serve our community. And we pray, Lord, whatever we do tonight, to those who come seeking our help, that the Holy Spirit guide and lead us that we might do that which is right. This we offer in the name and the prayer, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. The flag is in my back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christy, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Kirk Smith is absent tonight. Ms. Julia Dickerson.
Present.
Ms. Latricia Cobb. Mr. Keith DeBrock.
Here.
Ms. Sharon Galicia. Here. Ms. Janelle Hyatt. Mr. Art Little.
Here.
Mr. Jake Porsche. Mr. Carl Vincent.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
And Ms. Deanne Winey. Here.
Our procedures have been adjusted to follow social distancing protocol. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The chair will refrain from voting unless the vote might affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the requests from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, they will need to fill out a blue request to appear form located on the round table in the lobby. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. When it is your turn to speak, you will be asked to proceed to the second floor meeting room. Please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and the nature of your requests. As required by the board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there is a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speaker request forms are submitted, the time allowed for individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend or the board may vote to extend the time allotted for the speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exception, variances, and preliminary subdivision approvals are final tonight. The rezoning and road abandonment cases will go before the police jury for final action on March 18th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj@calcasieuParish.gov. Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, DeQuincy, and Gillis. Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. Please either turn off or silence all electronic devices. Take appropriate action to approve the minutes of the February 23rd, 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting. I entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Hyatt made the motion, and I need a second, and Ms. Winey seconded the motion. Did I get that backwards? Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Mrs. Hyatt seconded the motion, excuse me. At this time, we would like to inform everyone that item 18, there is no action on item 18 this evening. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Take action appropriate on RZ 06200168, a request by Calcasieu Parish Division of Planning and Development to rezone certain tracts of land from agriculture A1 and single-family residential R1 to multifamily residential RM, light commercial C1 and general commercial C2. I understand the staff is seeking deferral. Mr. Crane?
Yes, ma'am. We have Police Sheriff Randy Burley requested that the board defer action on this in order for him to be able to meet with some of his constituents that still have some concerns. So yes, please.
Make a motion.
I'll entertain a motion, and that's,
Second.
Ms. Cobb made the motion and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. The motion carries. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries? Okay, the motion carries. Do I need to do this? Okay. Okay, don't want to get. Okay, we're going to take appropriate action on SUB 01019-0126, a request by Adams Family Trust for a preliminary subdivision approval to allow a residential subdivision, 73 lots in Hidden Bluff subdivision, and the 300 block of Frugae Road in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Ms. Tunn?
This property is located in Moss Bluff and encompasses approximately 20 acres of single-family residential zone land. The Adams Family Trust intends to develop a 73-lot subdivision at the end of Frugae Road. The proposed development will tie into the Waterworks District 1 of Ward 1 and will have community sewer system. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development is subject to an application for and/or compliance with an LPDES stormwater discharge permit, which may be required through the Department of Environmental Quality and the Calcasieu Parish Division of Planning and Development, and that the preliminary plat and the runoff management plan must be approved by the Division of Engineering prior to submittal of final plans.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. At this time, we have 2 blue cards. In opposition, would the applicant like to come to say anything? Or does the board have any concerns or questions? Good evening. Could you please state your name and address for the record? And thank you for taking off your mask so we can hear you.
Good evening. My name is David Minton. Address is 4310 Ryan Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70605. I'm actually here, I guess, on behalf of this item and the next. I don't know if it would be more appropriate to do both at the same time or independently.
But to the first, if we can't just get the.
And I have no issue with that. The only issue is if the first gets approved and the second doesn't, that creates a problem for the approval. So just
At this time, if you don't mind, just let's go ahead and hear
So,
for this
yeah.
item agenda.
So simply put, this is a planned subdivision at the end of a dead-end road. This is a historical tract in the Moss Bluff area. It's owned by a family trust. We're working with a developer that has a builder that is interested in purchasing the 73 lots and constructing individual single-family residences. I don't know if there's additional pictures with the plans that y'all have on in the file. It's pretty straightforward. It's 2 roads. One's a dead-end cul-de-sac. The second, I think, will ultimately connect to, I believe that's Cox on the south end, with a small green space and park towards the southern end of the property. We've done a little preliminary discussion with the engineering department prior to the meeting over the last 6 months to work through drainage-related concerns and green space preservation-related concerns as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Mr. DeBrock?
You mentioned that there's going to be 2 entry and exits, or is there just one? Is one going off of Bozo Road as well?
So Phase 1 comes in, I believe it's the East Road, which is the dead-end cul-de-sac, and then Phase 2, which I think will connect through to Bozo.
Okay, because I didn't see that on the plat itself.
May I add? If you look to the southern portion of your plat, it shows Bozo Road.
Yes.
And there's a street that ties in to Bozo that runs north and south.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah, I didn't see it going out onto Bozo Road.
Yes.
Just like it did in the.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stein. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. At this time, we do have 2 blue cards. Mr. Aaron, Andrew Aaron, you would like to bring him in?
And again, Ms. Chairwoman, 3 minutes each.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Aaron. You'll have, if you don't mind, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Andrew Aaron. My address is 484 Moss Bluff Drive.
Thank you. You'll have 3
in Moss
minutes
Bluff.
to share any information.
Yes, ma'am. I believe the gentleman actually kind of covered most of what I was going to ask. With the storm drainage issue, my biggest concern for it was actually when my house was flooded because of the storm drainage issue there. How will this affect my small area versus, will it improve or will it bring more of an issue for where we live at?
Staff.
Why don't we have him finish the comments first?
Okay.
We'll get back to the questions later.
Okay. Are there any other comments or anything like that
No,
you'd
ma'am.
like to share? That was so it sounded like the applicant answered a lot of your questions
yes,
that you
ma'am.
had. So, but did anybody, any questions from the board or concerns?
According to my understanding, and we can ask Mr. Mitten once he gets back, and the staff could speak to this, this subdivision should be submitted and designed to have 0 impact on the surrounding areas.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it will improve your existing problem,
Right.
but it should not make it worse.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
So
sir.
This drainage would be submitted on past this process and to the drainage engineers before permitting to make sure that what they do here will not negatively impact 1% any of the surrounding areas.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and now we have Robert Shives. Another gentleman opposing.
How y'all doing? Robert
Good
Shives. I live at 276 Frugae Road, which is basically impacted by the drive-in. As we all know, the Frugae Road is a substandard road. We only have a road. So all this traffic's going to be coming up and down in front of my house because I live at the corner of where the property is going to begin. Not only do I want to see what's going to happen with the road, I'd like to know if it's going to be a trailer park or houses. That's a big question. And then the third thing would be, is this going to be fenced in so that I ain't got to look at everybody's garbage? When I walk out my front door, I don't want to look at my neighbor's back door. I need this answered.
Okay.
I know it's going to happen no matter what I say. I'd just like to have a few things,
Sure.
come to light here.
We can have the applicant come back up and address those
Okay,
things.
okay. Thank you. We'll get the applicant back up then.
Right.
Thank you.
So I did my best to listen outside. So with regards to the property itself, these are going to be mid to upper scale, single-family homes. It is, if you will, a commercial home builder. These are not going to be individual speculative lots. There's somebody that's going to purchase everything and build out the entire subdivision. So in terms of look and consistency, it's going to be of higher quality. Single-family homes on a slab, not trailers, I think was the concern, or anything like that. I can't speak for the ultimate builder, but I would assume that there would be some kind of perimeter fencing, within the development. There is a boulevarded entry planned with planters. So it's not just going to be throw a road at the end and, hope for the best. It's a planned entry, planned development.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board? And I believe the gentleman had 3 questions.
What was the third? Help.
The drainage part?
I don't have.
Drainage. Okay.
I don't have a
The narrowing of
question,
the
but
road, Frugae roads, he said it was a narrow road.
So with regards to Frugae, we look at what we are adding on to it. What we are constructing will be, it's going to be a curb and gutter system. So, typical curbs with subsurface storm drains, not open ditches. So with regards to the existing infrastructure, I can't really speak to that much. I know if there are issues that we can work with the parish, the engineering department to see how they want to address them.
Thank you. I believe Coach had a question for
my
you.
question is, he said he assumed that there would be some type of fencing. But can you put a stipulation in there if we pass it that it can be fenced so the gentleman wouldn't be looking?
We're probably pretty early for that at this stage of things. So I really don't think we can put a stipulation on at this point. So right now, we're just looking at the preliminary subdivision approval, and that's what's before you for item 6.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you so much. So since we had blue cards at this time, I think we'll do a roll call vote, Christie. But before we do, just want to make sure there's not any more discussion from the board.
Just for clarification.
Yes, sir.
Coach Williams, all of this property around here is single-family residential, so our ordinance would not typically require any kind of fencing like that. Now, if the developer wants to do that there, it's at their option. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Ready? Come, Ms. Christie.
Mr. Porsche?
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. DeBrock?
Yes.
Ms. Galicia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
And Ms. Winey? Yes. 9-4.
Motion 9-4, motion carries. Okay. The next item is take appropriate action on VAR 0221-0155, a request by Adams Family Trust for a variance to decrease the lot size requirement, required 7,500 square feet, requesting the smallest lot 6,380 square feet, and the 300 block of Frugae Road in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Mrs. Hyatt seconded the motion. Mrs. Tunn.
This case goes along with the previous agenda item. Again, the applicant intends to develop a 73-lot subdivision. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the lot size requirements. The lot size requirement is 7,500 square feet. They are requesting the smallest lot, 6,380 square feet for single-family residential development. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All opposed, state nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on SUB 1020-0147, a request by Morganfield Development LLC for preliminary subdivision approval to allow a residential subdivision, 52 lots in Waterside, Meadows at Morganfield Subdivision in the 5,000 block of Corbina Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Ms. Hyatt made the motion, and Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Ms. Hyatt seconded. Mrs. Tunn.
This property is located in Lake Charles and encompasses approximately 70 acres of agricultural zone land. Morganfield LLC intends to develop a 52-lot subdivision with minimum lot sizes being 1 acre. In 2011, this property was part of a master plan phase development that was designed to create a live and work environment. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development is subject to an application for and/or compliance with an LPDES stormwater discharge permit, which may be required through the Department of Environmental Quality and the Calcasieu Parish Division of Planning and Development, and that the preliminary plat and a runoff management plan must be approved by the Division of Engineering prior to submittal of final plans.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, state nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on AB-0221-0022, a request by Tower Land Company LLC to abandon and revoke the original road and right-of-way, dedication of a portion of Gant Road, approximately 308.2 feet at 1232 Gant Road in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Ms. Cobb made the motion. And I need a second. And Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Mrs. Tunn.
This road is located in the Sulphur area. The applicant owns the property on both sides of the proposed right-of-way that is requesting the abandonment. Should the request be granted, the applicant plans to utilize the existing right-of-way to access their property and install a gate. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is take appropriate action on VAR 0121-0150, a request by Bellon Properties LLC for a variance to allow 2 dwellings with less than required public road frontage, required 200 feet, requesting 46 feet, at 4740 Hickory Branch Road in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Mr. Little made the motion. Second. Ms. Cobb seconded the motion. Thank you. Ms. Dunn.
This property is in the Moss Bluff area and encompasses 5.22 acres of agricultural zone land. The applicant is requesting to allow a second dwelling for their employee whose home was destroyed during the hurricanes. This will be a permanent dwelling on the property. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to the utilities being connected.
Okay, thank you. We have no blue cards on this item. Does the board have any discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is take appropriate action on VAR 0121-0151, a request by John Kratzer for a variance to allow residential development with less than required lot square footage, allowed 40,075 square feet, requesting 26,136 square feet at 4728 Thompson Road in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with condition.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Little. Motion. And Mr. DeBrock seconded the motion. DeBrock. Ms. Tyne.
This property is in the Carlos area In 2017, the applicant received an administrative approval to allow 2 lots with less than required lot square footage, which allowed the lot in question to be 40,075 square feet. At this time, the applicant is requesting the lot to be in question to be reduced to 26,136 square feet. Because the proposed lot is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Take appropriate action on VAR 0121-0152, a request by Allen Seal, ETUX, for a variance to allow an off-premise sign to be within 100 feet of residential zoned district, requesting 65 feet at 300 Phillips Road in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Coach Williams made the motion and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Mrs. Todd.
This property is in the Westlake area and is zoned residential and commercial. Off-premise signs are not allowed within or nearer than 100 feet of a residential zone district. Therefore, the applicant is requesting to allow the off-premise sign to be 65 feet from the residential zoning. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Little?
Madam Chair, the only question I have is the 12-foot distance from the right-of-way. Is that's within our code, I would assume, what's on the site plan?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns or comments from the board? All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on VAR 0121-0153, a request by Joshua Mccoy for a variance to allow an accessory building without a main dwelling at 3655 Lake Breeze Drive in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Cobb made the motion and seconded by Ms. Hyatt. Mrs. Tunn.
This property is located in the South Lake Charles area and is zoned mixed residential. Within the mixed residential zoning district, the zoning ordinance requires an accessory building to be incidental to that of a main or principal building. Therefore, the applicant is requesting the exception to allow an accessory building without a main dwelling. The applicant plans to store his personal items within this accessory building. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, take appropriate action on VAR 0221-0154, a request by Dudley Petrie, ETUX, for a variance to allow an accessory building without a main dwelling and to decrease the front yard setback requirement, required 60 feet, requesting 22, and the 800 block of Rivers Edge Road in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Coach made the motion, and Ms. Cobb seconded the motion. Ms. Todd?
This is very similar to the previous case. This property is located in Westlake and encompasses .2 acres of mixed residential zone land. Again, in the mixed residential zoning district, an accessory building should be incidental to that of a main or principal building. The applicant is requesting an exception to allow an accessory building without a main dwelling. The applicant plans to store his personal items within the accessory building. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering. Thank you.
We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, take appropriate action on EX-0221-0104, a request by Kenneth Nichols for an exception to allow a solid waste site shingle recycling facility at 3301 North Perkins Ferry Road in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Mrs. Tyler.
This property is located in the Moss Bluff area and encompasses 40 acres of agricultural zone land. The applicant intends to lease the property to a company called Go Green. Go Green intends to utilize the property as a shingle recycling facility. The process of shingle recycling is converting the shingles to an asphalt road base and other usable products. The proposed development will set a quarter of a mile from North Perkins Ferry Road. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that a 50-foot natural buffer be maintained around the shingle recycling facility, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or concerns from the board? Mr.
Madam
Little?
Chair,
Yes, sir.
my question is in regard to this solid waste site, turning something in, making it used for asphalt. Is there any burning or chipping, grinding? Do we know what kind of process they're going to be doing to get this stuff?
The applicant is here. Why don't we bring the applicant?
Thank you. Yes. We'll go ahead and bring the applicant in, please.
I do have a question for the staff.
Is he here? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I have a question for the staff.
Yes, Mr.
So
Crochet.
this type of facility wouldn't require a rezone, just an exception to agricultural?
Yeah, under A1, it allows an exception.
Okay.
It's like a C and D site.
Okay.
And under that class, or that type of use is allowed under agricultural as an exception.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. If you don't mind, would you please state your name
Yes.
and address for the record?
Kenny Nichols at 2026 Coffee Road.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, we had a question for you. One of the board members would like to ask their question.
What's the process going to be to take these shingles and turn them into?
From what I understand, he will, of course, charge people to dump the shingles. And then if there's any trash in, he'll separate trash. And about twice a year, depending on how many shingles he's getting. Then he brings in a portable grinder and grinds them fine enough for aggregate or mixing in the asphalt. So I don't know what the percentage is, but hopefully a couple of times a year, because I don't think he's gonna have that many piles of shingles, So, but that's what I understand.
Yeah, so there's no burning or heat?
No burning, no
It's just a
burying,
grinding operation?
just a grinding, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Yes, sir, Mr. Porsche.
Do you know how much noise would be associated with the grinding?
I would assume it'd be about like a wood chipper,
Okay.
or maybe not quite as loud because of the shingles. I mean, wood,
Sure.
wood would be pretty noisy.
Just mostly curious.
But no, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a quarter mile off the road. There's not a house for
Right.
at least a quarter of a mile or better, so,
Sure.
yeah.
That was it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is that Ms. Hyatt?
Oh, only when he needs the chip, I'm assuming like an 8-hour day. Normal business hours. Anything else?
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
I
sir.
think, and Mr. Nichols can answer this, I think they own the property around.
Yes, I own
Surrounding.
lots of property around this site.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, too. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are no blue cards, so at this time, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on RZ 0121-0182, a request by City Storage of Louisiana LLC to rezone from agriculture A1 and light commercial C1 to central business commercial C3 to allow commercial development, mini warehouses at 5029 and 5047 Highway 27 South in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion with conditions.
So moved.
Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Ms. Tunn.
This property is located in the Corliss area and encompasses approximately 4.45 acres. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to allow mini warehouses. The proposed zoning to central business commercial would allow the applicant to maximize the total building square footage and allow for future growth. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There are no blue cards on this item. Does the board have any comments?
Question?
Or questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Little.
For the staff, I know we've got an ordinance for fencing. Looks like on his plot plan, he's showing a chain link fence. Adjacent to the north of this property is the Baptist church, and adjacent to the south is a home residence. Is chain link fence falls in there? If we need to do a wooden fence on part of this, we need an objection. At this time, we need to make an amendment, or?
Well, the ordinance would protect the residents if there's a residential property adjacent to it. So there would be, in the ordinance, it's already going to
Well, that's what
require
yes.
a wooden, some sort of fencing or screening.
Right, because I don't
Now-
think it needs to be the whole property, but just the first 180, 200 feet on both sides would cover, because these buildings are going to be built, from there on out, and it's not going to be an eyesore as it would be to build a wooden fence all the way around this thing, my personal feeling.
Right.
But it is in our ordinance, so that's all I need to know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
And just so I'm clear, just so you're clear, the ordinance gives an option of screening whether that be a wood fence, or it could be hurricane with slats.
Okay.
Or it could be landscape, vegetation. So it gives them that option.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns from the board? Okay. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on RZ 0121-0183, a request by City Storage of Louisiana LLC to rezone from General Commercial C2 to Central Business Commercial C3 to allow commercial development, mini warehouses at 3532 Highway 27 North in Ward 4. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So move.
Mr. Little made the motion. I need a second. Second. Ms. Hyatt? Ms. Dunn?
This is very similar to the previous case that we just had. It's also the same owner of the property. This is located in the North Sulphur area and encompasses approximately 1.86 acres. Again, the applicant is requesting to rezone to Central Business Commercial to allow the maximum total building square footage and to allow for future growth. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We have no blue cards. Are there any concerns or questions from the board? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Motion carries. I would like to announce that RZ-0221-0184, a request by Uzma Nain to rezone, has been withdrawn. Okay, next item. Take appropriate action on RZ-0221-0186, a request by Jason Gaspard, ETUX, to rezone from agricultural A1 to light commercial C1 to allow commercial development, a medical clinic at 4323 Highway 27 North in Ward 6. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Mr. DeBrock made the motion, and the second was made by Ms. Hyatt. Mrs. Dunn?
This property is located in the DeQuincy area and encompasses 3 acres of land. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to light commercial to allow a medical clinic. The petitioner intends to construct a new building that accommodates primary care patients in a rural setting. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided along the north and west property lines in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, take appropriate action on RZ 0221-0187, a request by the Mount Olive Baptist Church of Lake Charles, Inc., to rezone from agricultural A1 to central business commercial C3 and light industrial I1 to allow commercial and light industrial development, office spaces, warehouses, and laydown yard in the 3200 block of Opelousas Street in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Cobb made the motion and Ms. Hyatt seconded. Ms. Tunn.
This property is located in Lake Charles and encompasses approximately 20 acres. At this time, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property's central business, commercial, and light industrial to allow office spaces, warehouses, and laydown yards. The applicant will construct the buildings for potential lease tenants. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, that permitting is subject to approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, and that the 200 feet on the north and east side of the proposed tract be rezoned to central business commercial, and the remainder of the tract be rezoned to light industrial as per site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Ms. Tyne. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, take appropriate action on RZ-0221-0188, a request by Gotcha Properties, LLC, to rezone from mixed residential R2 to general commercial C2 to allow commercial development, floor and decor sales at 516 Broussard Road in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Ms. Coach Williams made the motion, and the second was made by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tyne.
This property is located in Lake Charles and encompasses a total of .94 acres of land. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to general commercial to allow floor and decor sales. The existing building was damaged due to Hurricane Laura. The applicant intends to construct a warehouse to store flooring material while they reconstruct the new showroom. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or concerns from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on RZ-0221-0189, a request by Black Lake Land and Oil Company, LLC, to rezone from single-family residential R1 to manufactured home park to allow a manufactured home park, 211 spaces, at 750 Goodman Road, Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Cobb made the motion, and Ms. Hyatt seconded the motion. Mrs. Tunn.
This property is located in northeast Lake Charles area and encompasses approximately 215 acres of single-family residential zone property. In 2016, the Planning and Zoning Board denied a request to rezone this property to allow a 680-space manufactured home park. In 2018, the Planning and Zoning Board granted a request to rezone the property to allow a 493-lot single-family residential development. At this time, FEMA intends to lease the property from Black Lake Land and Oil Company and intends to develop a 211-space manufactured home park to provide temporary housing due to Hurricane Laura and Delta. The proposed manufactured homes will be constructed to the Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD codes. The proposed development is not designed for the use of recreational vehicles. The initial lease between the property owner and FEMA would be through February 2022. Should FEMA need any potential extensions, the extension would be determined at that time. The site will be served by the Calcasieu Parish Water District Number 5 and Calcasieu Parish Sewer District Number 11. There have been preliminary discussions between FEMA and the Louisiana Department of Transportation, DOTD, on potential traffic improvements needed, and a traffic count has begun. Also, should this development be approved, FEMA intends to have displaced residents living on site around the end of July. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light sources cannot be visible to adjacent properties, that a runoff management plan and a traffic impact analysis will be required unless appropriate waivers are granted by the Division of Engineering, that the rezoning is only for temporary housing provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that the property will revert to the original zoning following completion of FEMA's temporary housing mission, and that the separate application must be submitted and approved to allow the manufactured home park to continue operating following completion of FEMA's temporary housing mission.
Thank you, Ms. Stein. We would like the applicant to be brought up for us, please, if you don't mind. We do have 2 blue cards in opposition, and so while she's getting the applicant, if the board has any questions or comments. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Galicia.
Is that the old Pine Shadows golf course again? I thought so.
Any other questions? Good evening. If you don't mind, would you please state your name and address for the record? And thank you for removing your mask. It helps us to hear a little better.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerard Stoller. I'm with FEMA, and I'm overseeing the recovery efforts here in Calcasieu Parish. I'm assigned to FEMA Region 6. The headquarters is in Denton, Texas.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Wallace, the Army Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm the site engineer for Pine Shadows Golf Course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, do y'all have any comments that you'd like to make before we hear the 2 people that are in opposition?
No, I think what you heard presented accurately describes what the purpose of the site is, what the restrictions are. You also heard that the scope of this mission is expected to end in 22, okay, 2022, and that would be right around the 1st of March, unless the state feels it's necessary to request an extension of the program. I just want to mention a couple of other key dates, all right, some milestones that you may want to have in mind. Following, the activities this week, the outcome of the recommendation that will come from this meeting, and then if there is a favorable result Thursday evening with the police jury, the Phase 2, what we would call Phase 2, property readiness, that would be lease negotiations and any other pre-permitting that would need to be done. We would expect that to begin somewhere around March 25th. Phase 3 is the actual construction, and the projected start date for this is the 1st of June, and it's expected to last, could last as long as 3 months. And then Phase 4, which is the actual beginning of the hauling and installing of the mobile homes and the licensing in the actual housing of these households that are currently displaced. We would expect that to begin somewhere around the 1st of September, and that could last as long as 3 weeks. Okay, and all these dates, again, are projections. I think as we've all seen over this last year, a lot of things can interrupt and disrupt plans, and we'll certainly keep the local officials apprised of that. But, and I also just want to say that I know that all of you, I'm sure, are aware of the recent coverage that the FEMA Temporary Housing Mission has received in both print and electronic media. And just want to say on behalf of our federal coordinating officer, John Long, that we know that this is a long process, and we're just doing everything we can to work with the local officials to get people back to Southwest Louisiana, back to Calcasieu Parish, just as quickly and safely as possible.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, stay close by, because in case we have any questions for you, we'll call you back in, okay? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They do have a question for you. Yes.
Last time, whenever they came in, you said we were still like 980 short. So I was just kind of wondering where we are now.
Actually, it was 826 last month. If this is approved Thursday night and moves forward, it would drop that number down to 377 because a project in Jeff Davis Parish is about to come online. So it would have a big chip out of that rock.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the gentlemen that are here before we let them go? Yes, sir, Mr. Vincent.
If this project's approved, and once you get it built, is it going to be there forever, or is it going to be there for a certain length of time?
Yeah, this is just it's a temporary mission, okay? And again, it will expire in March of 2022, unless, again, there has to be an extension. Now, the owner, again, the way this is set up, and as was described in the overview, when the mission is done and all those households go back to their a more permanent housing solution, our responsibility is to return that site as near as possible to its current condition, okay? Unless the owner elects to come back to this setting to petition to, have it remain in place or develop it in some other fashion. But our intent is to, right as we stand right now, is when the mission is complete, our responsibility is to remediate that site back to as close as possible to its original condition.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I got maybe
Yes, sir.
staff.
Coach Williams?
I may be missing something. Goodman Road. Is that in the vicinity where the old Pine Shadows?
Yeah, this is the old Pine Shadow site,
Oh, that's what.
the old Pine Shadows Golf Course site. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Cobb?
This is the same as the one we did last month, like on Highway 90. This is similar to that.
This is another project, but it is, yes, it's a temporary housing project through FEMA, yes.
Yeah, so when the people find residents, you take them out. I'm sorry, I should say. When the people find a residence, you take them out of the
Yes, ma'am.
park.
It's just like the Frugae site that we discussed last month.
Yeah, okay.
So we're getting real close now. I believe last time I was here, it was briefed that we had a need for over 800 mobile home pads. That number has now been cut almost in half. And so with the Frugae site, which could yield us 200 mobile home pads, and this Pine Shadow site, which is an additional, I believe it's 211 mobile home pads, we'd be very close to meeting the need that we have for the storms that happened last summer.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions for the applicants? Guys, if you don't mind, just stay close by in case we need you to come return. And at this time, we have 2 cards that are against and 1 card that just has a general comment. So let's bring in Lonnie Thomas. 3 minutes each.
Correct.
Mr. Cat?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lonnie Thomas. I live at 4220 Opelousas Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70615.
Thank you.
I'm here today because I want to stand in place of a lot of our members in the community who could not be here due to the culvert, but they all have the same, agreement that I have on this here issue here. We don't want to see these homes in this community. The reason why is because there's several reasons. Because of the traffic. Right now, the traffic is bad right now. A while back, we refused to have some trailer homes put there because of some of the same reasons. It's not just the traffic, it's the noise. To think of bringing that many trailers across Goodman Road, across Opelousas Street, back off into Pine Shadow. I live on the intersection right there where everything goes in and everything comes out. There's big trucks that pull trailers. They cut across my front yard because they can't make the turns. They damaging the stop signs. They pushing them over. Not only that, we have kids catch school buses right on the intersections there. If there's an accident or a wreck, everything is backed up. There's only one way in and one way out. And to add this much this many homes there would be a disaster because that's maybe for each homes, how many vehicles you think each one of those homes is going to have there. The same thing, the same people that agreed or voted not to have this put there last time, we feel the same way now. The problems has not changed and they won't change because there's only one way in and one way out. We've been addressing these issues many times before, same issues. There's no light, there's just dark in that area. There have been so many wrecks, there have been people injured, some killed. It's just a bad intersection. And people just don't pay attention to the traffic. The speed, they got speeders, you got people running the stop sign. I've had wrecks that happen and end up in my front yard. I can't let my grandkids go out in the front yard because the wrecks end up in my front yard. It's a dangerous situation at that corner. We don't need these trailers tearing up the roads, cutting across my front yard because they can't make the turns. Not only that, you're bringing more people back there. You got a noise problem. We're dealing with it because of the loud music that they play all day, all night, early mornings. We're going to add some more problems back there by doing the same thing. As I said, I live at the intersection, and I see it all and hear it all.
Mr. Thomas, you have about just 10 seconds left. I'm going to let you wrap it up. You have 3 minutes total.
I think I've made my point.
Okay, sorry, I should have informed you earlier.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before you go, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Thomas, or would you like to?
I got one question.
Yeah, Mr. Coach Williams has a question for you before you go.
Mr. Thomas, isn't there a church on that corner?
Yes, there is, sir.
Okay, what is your resident relative to that church?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your question.
There's a church on that corner, right?
Yes, there is.
And the road that leads to Pine Shadows?
That's Goodman Road.
Okay, there's a church on that corner.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where's your resident?
Right across the street from the church, the brick home across the street from the church.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. And the other blue card, person that's opposing is Bob Davis, so if we could have him come in at this time. Good evening, Mr. Davis. We're going to let you state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to share any comments with us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My name is Robert Davis. address 3424 Power Center Parkway. For the past 20 years, I have been developing affordable housing across the street and have appeared before this board many times since we did it in 13 phases. The premise behind the development that was authorized by the state was that at the end of 15 years, we would begin selling the homes to the existing tenants at very low prices. In this case, about $33,000. We were actually in the process of beginning to close some of these when the hurricane hit. And we have between $30 and $40 million worth of damage to the almost 400 homes we have across the street. That in and of itself is creating enormous traffic problems. But since there's only one way in and one way out, and it's across a narrow bridge, you know, we got to put these people back in their homes, and there's no other way to get there. I'm somewhat intrigued by the nature of this application and why we're fooling with it. They don't expect to start leasing it up until September, and have told you it's going to be done in March. I had my staff yesterday check throughout the parish, and they found 375 empty mobile home sites that could be rented yesterday. We didn't even begin to go down Highway 27 to all those overbuilt RV parks. But with a little more work, you know, this is our money. You know, this is not some sugar daddy building this. This is our tax money. And to do it, use it 6 months through March of next year, then tear it all out on what has to be probably no bid contracts, because there's no way you're going to get contractors, you know, to bid these things between now and the start in June. We're pouring money in there for 6 months. Why? We have promised, worked very hard to provide the tenants and soon-to-be homeowners in there a decent, safe, nice place to live with their families. And any who've been back there know that there are basketball goals up and down every street. It's a huge family community. Very crime-free, very safe. It took a lot of time leaving trees.
Mr. Davis, you have about 10 seconds left. Do you want to go ahead and wrap it up, please?
Yeah, please don't do this. I've fought things like this 4 times. The road's not, that bridge, somebody's going to have to repair. I was told the last time I wanted to expand my subdivision that there wasn't enough water, that I'd have to put in water. And this says they're going to put a community sewer system in.
Thank you. Does the board have anything to comment on, or would like to ask Mr. Davis anything? The only thing I'd like to comment on is, I think you had said it, you know, tearing out in March. And what I'm understanding is that they can request to extend that if needed. And so it possibly may not be torn out in March. It could be extended if someone else is needing.
Well, and that's what the application says.
Yeah.
Now, you can imagine, if I want to be a good guy and say, okay, temporary mobile home park, go ahead. Next year, when FEMA's gone, and they've spent $1 million to put infrastructure in, sewer system, roads, water, electricity, you know, how much luck am I going to have coming back to the board and say, oh, this was only supposed to be temporary? And the owner at that point says, I've spent $4 million. Why are you going to make me take it out?
Thank you so much.
More waste of our tax money.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And the next person is Grabar Braxton. Is that might have been Gamar Braxton.
No,
Did I
it's
say-
Jamar, thank you.
Okay, I did, okay, Jamar
Yes,
Braxton.
good evening.
Please state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. My name is Jamar Braxton. I live at 4304 Gordon Woods Drive, Lake Charles, 70615. I actually live in the Lake Caroline homes that Mr. Davis owns. My home is actually one of the first homes you see when you come back there. I've been living there almost 12 years with my children. I'm not necessarily opposed to the project because I have many people in our community that are displaced at this time and that are ready to come back home. But one of my main concerns is traffic. I do believe that Mr. Mike Smith requested a traffic analysis, and I think that was done last week. I noticed the wires on the streets last week. I don't know what the results are. But traffic is the main concern. Like Mr. Thomas said, there's accidents. People have lost their lives at that intersection. And people, just the other day, because my home, Goodman Road right on the side of my home. There were a couple of trucks racing the other night while we were outside. Like Mr. Thomas said, loud music. And again, going back to safety. Several years ago, as you know, especially since we're approaching hurricane season, what are we going to do when we bring 500 more people back there? How will we get out? You know, the feeder roads that run on the side of the interstate, you can't get out. Everybody's car can't cross over the median to get out. Several years ago, someone was riding a horse over the overpass, and the horse was struck and died, and that backed up traffic for hours. No one could get in, no one can get out. So situations like that, how will we get out, hurricane season, or just anything? You know, what's the plan? What's the plan in action? And with safety, I know where I live, they screen residents. I know that a lot of our residents take pride in our community. And my concern is what's going to happen when people move in that, you know, across the street that may not have a lot to lose. You know, they're living there, you know, rent-free. And, you know, so what are the safety precautions that are going to take place for my community that is right across the street from it? So, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ms. Braxton? And Ms. Braxton, the only thing I'd like to add is I do know that there's a traffic impact analysis that will be required, not unless appropriate waiver is brought forth by the Division of Engineering. And so I think that is being looked at.
Okay, like I said, I believe it was done last week. I noticed, you know, the lines out in the road and things, and I think Mr. Smith said he had requested it.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to bring the applicant back in case they'd like to clear up any of the concerns that the last three people had. Thank you. I guess you could hear some of the concerns that some of the applicants, some of the citizens had. Do you want to address any of?
Yeah, I fully understand, and we appreciate the safety concerns and the concerns for traffic. Again, this is a big part of our mission. We want to do this safely as possible. So I cannot stand here this evening and say that and commit FEMA to any improvements to the intersection, but I would certainly like to learn more about the intersection and what the community thinks might need to be done in order to make this a little more acceptable, okay? Because I've been out to this site, I've driven on that road. I know it's very, it's narrow. It's a two-lane road, and I know lighting is a concern as well too. But again, I can't make any commitments. But if there are, if the community does have some ideas on what might need to be done, I can certainly bring that to the attention of the federal coordinating officer.
Thank you. Does anyone have any concerns? Mr. Vincent?
Yeah, I have three. How many people will this new development serve? How long do you think it's going to be open, and how much is it going to cost?
Well, the site itself is, we're going to have 211 mobile home pads. Each mobile home will be various bedroom configurations from 1 to 3 bedrooms. So, you may be looking at, 700 to 1,000, on average, if we were to fill the entire site. But you could have 200 households, a little over 200 households at this location.
And how long will it be open, and what's it going to cost the government?
Well, again, that's the length of the program is going to depend on how long. Well, it's scheduled to end in March of 2022. However, as I mentioned earlier, the state can request, and this has been done in the past, even here in Louisiana, where an extension has been granted for the direct housing mission. And in some cases, we basically keep the site open until those households are able to have a more permanent solution to move into.
And what's it going to cost?
I'm sorry, sir?
What's the budget for this project?
Do you have the costs on that? I don't have the I don't have the specific number on that, but I can certainly provide that to the board.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Swaney?
I have a question for you. How was this location, what was the process in choosing this particular location for this project?
Yeah, so the whole idea of building a what we call a group site, basically a mobile home park, this is our option of last resort. We prefer to put households that are displaced by storms that hit Southwest Louisiana last summer. We prefer to put them in a temporary housing unit on their private property. We have challenges with that here in Southwest Louisiana. A lot of private property are in flood zones, and we can't put travel trailers or mobile homes on private sites. The next option, the next preferred option, and you've heard it mentioned in some of the other remarks, is to put households into commercial parks. And we have worked very closely with the local officials to identify commercial parks throughout the parish. And we've had varying degrees of success. Some commercial park owners do not want to work with the federal government. Other commercial parks sustained so much damage from the storms that they're just trying to get back up on their feet right now. Others, though, have been very receptive to working with FEMA. And in some cases, we've even been able to partner with these commercial parks to expand their current capacity. And in other cases, and one is, it's actually in Jefferson Davis Parish, but I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, the Lacassine RV Park. Here we are working with the owner to convert RV pads into mobile home pads. And this is going to be a great benefit to our mission, because we're going to get 300 mobile home pads out of that when the conversion work is complete. And that's certainly helping with our numbers. So again, the last option is to look at group sites. And beginning last fall, shortly after Hurricane Delta, we began to work closely with the Planning Division of Calcasieu Parish to identify properties that we might need, in this case, for households that we have either not been able to put in a private site or get into a commercial park. And we've looked at dozens of properties. A lot of those did not meet our environmental review standards, so they either were in a wetland or in an existing flood zone, and were not allowed to build temporary mobile home parks at these locations. This particular site, along with the Frugae site, is one that met those environmental and other regulatory requirements that we found to be suitable for further exploration and development. And for the Frugae site, of course, we sought, and we're certainly grateful to have received the zoning exception. And we're now working with the owner on arrangements for the lease there. This particular site, again, is very attractive, again, from a regulatory standpoint, and that's why we're here this evening. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but I hope that I've described the process, okay? Primarily, we try to get on private sites. If not there, we go to a commercial park, and then as a last resort, and we've been looking at several properties in the parish, we realize that this is a very an important decision for the community and a sensitive decision, and a lot of things have to be considered.
Thank you. And Mr. Porsche had a comment to make.
If the numbers, the statistics, the data is saying, you know, these houses are needed, if this is not approved, then y'all would move on to another site. And I just general comments, is that correct? Y'all would move on to another option?
Yeah, and we still have some other properties that we're looking at.
Sure.
And those are much smaller parcels of land.
Right.
And this particular site, as I mentioned before, with what we're looking at right now, between this site and Frugae, we'd be real close to meeting the requirement.
Okay. I always wanted us, I feel like for a while we were getting off into the cost and things, which is, you know, if we're curious, I understand that, but it's about the land use, and if this is appropriate, no one wants to hear my opinion on what the federal government does with our tax money, or maybe after the meeting, no. But my question for the staff and for the applicant, during this process, I would assume that there's some sort of bond situation that will be required because of the use of the parish roads to ensure that if there's damage done, the bridge collapses during construction while y'all are there precautions or bonds required as part of their permitting process that would make the FEMA responsible to make those repairs if damage to parish property, roads, infrastructure occurs?
I think there's some things in place if once engineering reviews this and there's determined that there's a need for improvements for intersections or anything like that. Got to understand, we've got a state highway and a parish road. So, I mean, those costs could be negotiated between the three entities on who would pay for what.
Right.
And so I think that's how we would approach it.
So it's possible that there could be improvements that would be long-term improvements for Calcasieu Parish moving forward that could be facilitated or accomplished during this process.
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions
Thank you, Mr. Porsche. Mrs. Cobb?
It was mentioned about security, and I know the area, and there are some nice homes out there.
Yes, ma'am.
And people are concerned about the security of their homes. And what type of security do you provide?
Well, as I mentioned, our security arrangements will be the same as they're going to be at the Frugae site, and we will work with the local authorities to make sure they're aware of what we have at this site. We will also have a site manager, much like a commercial mobile home or RV park has a management staff on site. We will have a manager for that location as well. But in terms of security and fire response, things like that, we will certainly coordinate that with the local authorities.
Thank you. I just would like to say that I appreciate your comment, Mr. Porsche, because I feel like we do need to get back to this is land use, and whether we approved Frugae's last month, and whether we don't approve this, it's going somewhere else, and FEMA has a budget to spend, and we need homes for the people that are in our area that don't have homes, and a lot of people don't have insurance, and that are in need, and dire need. And just like the lady that made the comment, general comments, Mrs. Braxton. She has personal friends and family that she had commented that need a place to stay. So I think we need to bring it back to that and go from there. So, any other comments or questions or concerns?
I got some concern, but I'd rather express them to staff.
Yes, ma'am.
What would be the option in getting some kind of light that seems to be such a dangerous corner? To have a stoplight or a stop sign or some way to slow down traffic in that particular corner if that many people's had accidents there?
Well, again, I'm very interested in learning more about what you would think would be necessary there. Again, I've been out there, and I certainly recognize and understand the concerns. I'm sorry?
I can answer.
Yeah. But,
The traffic analysis will help
yeah,
determine that.
yeah. And I know that traffic analysis is going on right now, but.
Anything else? Thank you so much. We
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate it. And then I think Mr. Williams had a question for the staff.
To staff, I'm real sympathetic with both sides because, like Ms. Cobb said, I'm well familiar with that area because when they had Pine Shadows, I played golf out there at least twice a week. But like you said, it's a one-way in, and it's always been that way because at the end, it's a boat launch. You're in the river, and then they got a small plant back there. I think it still exists. But there's no way that you could widen that road. I don't care if FEMA in it, my analysis. But before Mr. Thompson did that development over there, they didn't have no houses on the south side. But it's real developed over there. They got some nice homes on that side. But I can't see no way where any improvement can be done. And like you said, in that Pine Shadows area, I think we was approached by some years ago, they're supposed to build something there, Pine Shadows left, but it never did develop. But see, that's all wooded area over there, and to me, it would kind of add some to that community with something else in there. It's all wooded area, it's still there. But like you said, people need a place to stay, and this gonna be temporarily for 2 years, they say, when they're gonna move out. But I think we'll be able to control who goes in there after that. Don't you think?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
But most of the accidents, what he talking about, that's way down there on Opelousas Street, at the bottom of the bridge. And that's been happening for years, before he even had that development back there.
Yes, sir, and that's the corner that would be looked at.
Yeah, that's where the problem is, down at the bridge at Opelousas.
Yes, sir.
Goodman Road.
Mr. Porsche?
I just want to, so I'm clear, we are giving a temporary approval for a temporary problem. This wouldn't be able, like an in-house review, once FEMA's out of here to get permanent zoning change, the owner would have to come back before this board and also the police jury to get a permanent rezoning classification to allow trailers to stay here. Is that's my understanding. I'm just making sure I'm giving temporary approval, if I vote for this.
Yeah.
Temporary approval for a temporary problem. That's all right. I'm clear. I'm good.
Ms. Wallace, would you like to add anything to anything, or you're
No,
okay?
ma'am.
Anybody else, would y'all like to comments or concerns? Okay, I think at this time, we're going to do a roll call vote. Ms. Christie?
Ms. Galicia,
Yes.
Mr. DeGrock,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Porsche,
Yes.
Ms. Cobb,
No.
Mr. Vincent,
No.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt,
Yes.
Ms. Winey. No. 7 for, and I have 2 against.
3 against.
3. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Winey, you voted no. No. Correct? Okay, I'm sorry. 60.
Okay. Motion carries. Next item, take appropriate action on RZ 0221-0190, a request by JATKY to amend ordinance number 4908, RZ 03-016-05, stipulation number 2, that all parking must be concrete and loaded on the side and rear of all commercial buildings, to allow parking to be loaded in front of the commercial buildings in the 5700 block of Lake Street in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. DeBrock. And Ms. Hyatt, seconded. Mrs. Tutton.
This property is located in Lake Charles area and encompasses approximately .89 acres of land. In 2005, the property was rezoned to light commercial and general commercial to allow commercial development. At that time, the board placed a condition that all parking must be concrete and located on the side and rear of all commercial buildings. At this time, the applicant is requesting the stipulation be amended to allow the parking to be located in the front of the commercial buildings. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided the director or designee, Director of Planning and Development or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development. That all parking must be hard surfaced. That all signs must be low-profile monument signs. That the use be limited to professional offices, medical offices, retail outlets, daycare facility, and convenience stores within the light commercial area. That the use be limited to restaurants only in the general commercial, and the same use approved in light commercial as stated in staff recommendation number 4. That the architectural design for the development be limited to the following themes: French country, traditional, and contemporary. That all utilities must be underground within the development. That the 5.42 acre tract be depicted on the site plan as reserved must remain as open space. That all required parking for multifamily development must be in the rear of the duplexes, and that all development must be landscaped and approved by the Division of Planning and Development. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Tyne. We have no blue cards on this item. Are there any questions or concerns from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on February 25th, 2021, with reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from February 23rd, 2021 meeting. Gary Copples, Highway 27 North, Planning and Zoning recommended approval. Police jury approved. CMH Homes, Highway 3256, Planning and Zoning recommended approval. Police jury approved. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regular scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held on Tuesday, April the 20th, 2021. Adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Little made the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Swiney seconded it. Thank you. This concludes our meeting.